Another way to create soft lighting is to use an image as a light source. Now, this is called image-based lighting, and it's supported by Mental Ray. So here I have a scene, and this is our scene with one light in it. So if I take a look at this in my outliner, you'll see I have one spotlight in the scene. And if I select that spotlight, I can turn down the intensity to 0, essentially turning off all the lights in the scene. Now, if I were to render this with no light in the scene, I would get pretty much nothing except for the reflections of the glass. So this glass is doing a little bit of a reflection of its environment, which gives it a little bit of color. But basically, it's just black. Now, if I want to add in some light to that scene, I can do it using an image. Now, we can do this using the Render Settings window. So when I bring up my Render Settings window, I go over to the Scene tab under Mental Ray. And we have, under Environment, we have two options. One is called Image-Based Lighting, where we provide the image. The other one's called Physical Sun and Sky, and this is where Maya can calculate a pseudo sun and sky. We're just going to focus on image-based lighting right now. So I'm going to create an image-based light. Now what this does is it actually creates an object in the scene. I'm going to minimize my Render Settings window, and let's go ahead and zoom out. It creates this giant sphere around our scene. That sphere is called Mental Ray IBL Shape 1. IBL stands for Image-Based Lighting. So if I select this sphere, I can change the attributes of it. Well, the most important attribute is the image that we're putting into this sphere. Now, the most important attribute is the image itself. So I'm going to go ahead and load an image. In our source images file, we should have one called clouds.jpg. And it looks something like this. And this will map to that sphere. And when I take a look at this in my viewport, you can see that now I have an image of the sky behind my scene. Now, if I go to render this, you won't see much difference from what we had before. And that's because this image is still not emitting light. Now, we can turn this on in one of two places. I can select this Mental Ray IBL1 object, and down here we have a light emission tab. So if we want, we can turn on emit light. Another way to do this is to go into my Render Settings window, and we have a checkbox here. It says Emit Environment Light. Now notice how when I click one off, the other one goes off. So these two are connected. They're the same value or same attribute. So I can turn this on, adjust the quality. I'm going to leave this at default, which is 0.2, but we can certainly bring it up to give higher quality. And we're going to do a render. Now this render may take a little bit of time, but let's go ahead and do it. And so now we have the render. And this is the render of nothing but the image-based lighting. So as you can see, the lighting has a slight blue tone to it, and that's because we're emitting a blue light from the sky. But we're getting a very nice soft light into our scene. Now if we want, we can go back into our outliner and highlight our spotlight and maybe turn up the intensity. Maybe turn it up to about 0.75 or so, and then do another render. So here we have it. Now we've got two sources of light in the scene. We have the spotlight, which is casting the main shadows, but the sky itself is also casting light from all directions. So that way we've got some detail in the shadow areas. Now you can certainly use image-based lighting along with Final Gather and Global Illumination as well to create even softer effects.